I woke up to a "for sale" sign on my front lawn, but the kicker is that I never put it there, and my name is the only one on the deed. Can you imagine the sheer heart-stopping panic of looking out your window while sipping your morning coffee only to see a real estate agent's contact info planted in your flower bed? I stood there, frozen, thinking maybe it was a prank or a mistake by a neighbor, but when I called the number on the sign, the agent told me she had been hired by my own parents to sell the family asset. Was I wrong for losing my absolute mind on them? Or would you have done the exact same thing if your own flesh and blood tried to sell the roof over your head behind your back? Let me tell you how this absolute nightmare started, because it goes back much further than just a sign in the grass. I'm 32 now, and for the last 5 years I've lived in a beautiful, modest 3-bedroom home that I bought with my own hard-earned money and a very specific inheritance from my late grandfather. My grandfather and my parents had a very strained relationship, mostly because my father has always been what you might call financially creative, which is a polite way of saying he's a professional at losing money on get-rich-quick schemes. When my grandfather passed away, he left the bulk of his estate to me in a trust specifically for a down payment on a home, bypassing my father entirely. My parents were livid at the time, but they eventually settled into a passive-aggressive acceptance of the situation, or so I thought. I found this house, fell in love with it, and used every cent of that trust plus my own savings to buy it outright. Since then, I've spent countless weekends tiling the kitchen, painting the walls, and turning it into a sanctuary. My parents, on the other hand, have been struggling. My dad's latest investment in a luxury car rental startup went south, and they've been hounding me for months about family solidarity and how we all need to pool our resources to get through the tough times. I've helped them with groceries and utility bills here and there, but I've been very firm about not becoming their personal ATM. About 2 weeks ago, my mom started dropping weird hints about how my house was too big for one person, and how real estate prices are at an all-time peak. I just brushed it off as her usual meddling, never dreaming she was actually plotting a heist of my primary residence. Then came that Tuesday morning, after I hung up with the real estate agent, who was incredibly confused when I told her I was the owner and had never met her. I called my mother. She didn't even sound guilty. She told me, in this breezy, casual voice, that they had found a wonderful opportunity for a joint family investment in a new development, and that since my house was technically family property because of the inheritance, they decided to get the ball rolling on a sale to save time. I was speechless. I told her the house was in my name and my name alone. She just laughed and said, "Oh, honey, we're a family. The title is just a formality." I hung up on her and immediately called a lawyer friend of mine. I was shaking so hard I could barely type my password into the county records website to pull my own title search, just to make sure I wasn't crazy, and that's when things went from weird to illegal. As I was scrolling through the digital documents, waiting for the PDF to load, I started thinking about the sheer audacity it takes to put someone else's home on the market. My parents aren't just overbearing, they are delusional. They actually believe that because my grandfather's money helped buy the house, they have a moral claim to it. But morality doesn't pay the mortgage, and it certainly doesn't give you the right to sign listing agreements. I realized then that they must have forged my signature or lied to the agent about having power of attorney. This wasn't just a family spat anymore. This was a criminal matter. So that's the situation I was in, trapped between my own parents and a legal battle for my home, and I had to make a choice. Before I tell you what I discovered in that title search and how I handled the confrontation, I want you to pause and comment below what you would have done in my shoes. Would you call the police on your own parents, or would you try to settle it quietly? Because what I found next changed everything. When the title search finally loaded, my heart dropped into my stomach. There was a recent filing, a quitclaim deed that I had supposedly signed 3 weeks ago, transferring a 50% interest in the property to my father. My jaw hit the floor. I hadn't signed a single piece of paper. They had forged my signature, found a shady notary, and actually filed a legal document to steal half of my house. The sheer level of betrayal was staggering. I didn't call them back right away. Instead, I went straight to the police station. I filed a report for identity theft and forgery, and then I called the real estate agent back and told her that if she didn't pull that listing in the next 10 minutes, I would be naming her and her agency in a massive lawsuit for participating in a fraudulent sale. She was horrified and pulled the listing immediately, but the damage was done. I had to go to my parents' house to confront them with the police report in my hand. When I walked in, they were actually celebrating with a bottle of wine. My dad had the nerve to tell me that they were doing this for my own good, so we could all move into a bigger place together. I lost it. I told them that the police were involved, that the quitclaim deed was a felony, and that I was prepared to see them in handcuffs if they didn't sign a document immediately confessing to the forgery to help me clear the title. My mother started crying, calling me ungrateful and saying that my grandfather would be ashamed of me for hoarding my wealth while they suffered. My dad tried to act tough, telling me I wouldn't dare put my own father in jail. I looked him dead in the eye and told him he had 10 seconds to start talking to my lawyer or I was calling the detective I had just spoken with. It took hours of screaming and tears, but eventually the reality of prison time sunk in. They signed everything I needed to undo their mess. I spent the next month in a legal whirlwind, getting the fraudulent deed expunged and putting a lock on my credit and my property title. I also had to get a restraining order because my father kept showing up at my house, screaming through the door that I had stolen his retirement. The fallout was total. My siblings have split into 2 camps. One side thinks I'm a monster for potentially sending our parents to jail, and the other side is terrified of what our parents might do to them next. I haven't spoken to my mother in months, and frankly, I don't think I ever will again. They didn't just try to sell a house, they sold our relationship for a chance at a quick buck. I learned the hard way that blood isn't always thicker than water, especially when that water is a swimming pool at a house they couldn't afford. It's a lonely feeling, sitting in this house now, knowing how far they were willing to go to take it from me, but I've never felt more secure in my decision to protect myself. If you don't stand up for your boundaries, people, even your own parents, will walk right over them and take everything you've built. Like this video if you were on my side and think I did the right thing by involving the law. Subscribe for more stories like this where we dive deep into the craziest family drama and legal nightmares you can't imagine. Share your final thoughts on this whole mess in the comments section. Have you ever had a family member try to take advantage of you financially, and how did you handle it? I'm curious to see if I'm really the villain some of my family says I am. I'll see you all in the next story.